Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg in Las Vegas. Looking forward to a very profitable weekend in sports gambling. Hank, it's pretty exciting out there. We got lots more states are opening up their gambling. Pennsylvania's doing it. New York's talking about it. We're up to about...
Well, let me tell you what's happening with that, okay, for a moment.
Sure.
I talked to some people at the NFL yesterday, and this federal bill that's going on is going to take away the state-by-state business and nationalize sports betting. This is something that the league is in favor of. They're supporting it. And this is Schumer's legislation that he's introducing from New York. And, of course, the Democrats are very strong behind it. So you won't have to be concerned with rules varying from state to state. There'll be federal legislation that will govern sports gambling in this country, and apparently the federal government is in favor of it now. And the league, the NFL, is behind it now. And part of what will happen is that you will see the leagues approving advertising from race books and gambling institutions, and it's going to open up a whole new avenue of revenue potential for the NFL.
Where's all the money going to come from to go to the NFL? I mean, it's a very small margin that bookmakers work on now.
Well, if they want to advertise, they can. They have an avenue of football, wherever they want to run advertising. And I'm sure that they have money to do that. So when you say, where's the revenue going to come from? It's going to come from people who bet.
Well, when I was...
There will be... Oh, and the other thing is that the league will provide all the information for sports betting, and as far as the sports betting operations will have access to injury reports, and the leagues, the NFL for that matter, all the leagues will work with the sports betting operations to provide them with the information that they need, and all the sports betting will use league-provided statistics. It's a whole partnership.
Well,
it's not a matter where the money is going to come from.
Well, are you in favor of this? What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's fine. It's going to. It won't. You will no longer have to depend on individual states coming up with wacky rules on takeout and that sort of thing. It'll be one rule for everybody.
That's a positive, definitely a positive in that respect. Yes.
And the NFL is finally waking up to the fact that this is the whatever century it is, and it's time to go along and support sports betting.
Yeah, it's about time. That's for sure.
Hank, what it's going to do is it's going to open up you will have a national line, and whatever the states want to do to go along with it, they can go along with it. But sports betting will be good anywhere you want to go. So that's where the money's going to come from.
Well, I'm sure that I'm happy the NFL's got behind it. There's a lot of things that need to be discussed about it, and how the rules are set, of course. But you're dealing with the federal government. You're dealing with a very complex organization. But I'm sure in the long...
It's real simple. They're going to have it's going to be there in black and white. The law will be there, and sports betting will be legal in the United States, just like it is in England.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm in favor of it. It's about damn time we've had it like other countries have had. It's time, but it's going to take it's going to be complicated for the politicians to all get together on what they're doing. That's what I'm saying.
They're together. They're together on it.
Okay.
They have all approved it, and all they have to do is write. And the bill is being written as we speak, and it will pass. Even Trump will support it. But what it is, what it means is that so far you only have 4 states who are legalizing sports betting, and they're moving very slowly. Now you don't have to worry about state by state.
And when will this go into effect?
As soon as they pass it.
Okay.
It'll be in effect by next season.
Oh, definitely by football season. That would be great. All right. Well, we got a big card of sports to deal with for this weekend in basketball and football. We got bowl games. We got a big weather issue in the Bahamas where the line is...
By the way, the government is being shut down right now, so it's not going to affect next week.
No, it won't. Well, I'm not going to... That's a political argument for somebody else's show to discuss. I'm not going to go there. I know they've got a GoFundMe program going out there to raise money to build the wall, and they got 40.
But the sports betting is a political argument too. It's a political discussion right now because it's going to go through Congress.
Well, yes, it is. I'm not sure what to say about it, Hank, because honestly, I wasn't prepared to talk about it, and honestly, when the government gets involved in something,
well, that's why you have me. I call people to find out about it, and so I'm telling you about it today.
I appreciate it, Hank. Anything on the sports betting front for Friday, Saturday, Sunday? We got a lot of stuff going on. Anything you want to discuss there?
Sure. Last night I watched a couple of basketball games. I watched the Duke Texas Tech game. It was a heck of a game. It was very close until the last couple of minutes. And Texas Tech gave Duke a game, but game was played in Madison Square Garden, and Duke did not shoot very well at all. Probably it was their lowest scoring first half ever, I think. They had 28 points. But they came through at the end. Reddish had a terrible game. He was like 0 for 13 at one point. But Duke came through and they won and they covered by a point. I was a little nervous there for a while. I watched Houston last night. Something bothered me about Houston, and that is that they are a one-man show. Paul didn't play for most of the game. He was out after the first quarter, and they were just he just wants to do everything himself, and he's not a good team guy. And they lost to an inferior Miami team, whose guy is out, who averages 15 points a game. And Houston does not defend very well, and they're not a good inside team. And so that was bothersome for me watching that game, just to talk basketball for the moment. While we're on the subject of basketball, there's some really good matchups this weekend. As you're going to have Tennessee Wake Forest. Should be a pretty good scoring game to watch. Villanova, Connecticut in the Garden. Villanova's playing well again. And you've got Kentucky. You've got Kentucky with a big game. Ohio State, UCLA, and Kentucky, North Carolina. Those are the big matchups this weekend. Kentucky, North Carolina is really good right now. They're rebounding and they're running the floor. Their fast break is they're averaging 92 points a game, and they're fun to watch. And Kentucky, we'll see what they can do against them. So those are the big basketball games this weekend.
Yeah, well, Villanova hasn't really started out like Jay Wright would like them to do. They got a lot of development to go on. You got this team tonight, Buffalo 11-0 on the season, ranked 14th in the country, visiting Marquette, ranked 20th in the country. Marquette's a 2.5-point favorite in that game. That should be a very good game. Buffalo is.
Yeah, Buffalo's really good.
A lot of people
I'll
don't.
tell you something about Villanova, though. The last few games they've played well.
Yeah, they've
They
had
started slow. You're right, but
but
they're better. They're coming on.
a lot of these teams are trying to round into shape when they're conference play, and that's, that's really important stuff. And this is kind of preseason until you get to the first of the year. There aren't too many conference games before the first of the year, and that's where these teams will start to shine. We got another dark horse team tonight, Furman at LSU. 12-0 Furman, ranked 24th in the country. You got these teams. Most people don't have any idea about Buffalo and Furman, but you got two teams that are totally playing very well. But this is preseason, and the matchups are going to change quite a bit because they're going to be playing some very tough teams along the way. Marquette, the tough home team. LSU's a tough home team, and going up against these clubs. So, and the weekend, like you said, there's some great plays. You got the defending champs. You got the Villanova. Jay Wright's a great coach, and he will get that team in shape. But they don't always have the same quality athletes each year, also. But it's really, really interesting. And then when you go to football, they got there's a lot of injured players this week in the NFL. And Pittsburgh, they just announced yesterday Juju Smith got hurt. Now he's on the injury list. We don't know what's going to happen with him. Big Ben's got the ribs. I'm sure he'll play.
He's playing, but I don't think Connor's going to be able to play. He hasn't practiced all week.
Right.
And it looks more and more like he's not going to be available. And
the kid that replaced him ran the ball for 142 yards last week. Can't remember his name right now. But it's, the running game and the defenses, it switched from what you saw in September and October to the high-scoring games. It's changed now. We're starting to see some defense. It's starting to go back to a little bit of old-school football, defense and running the ball. Not so much high-scoring. You're not seeing those big numbers that we saw earlier.
Yeah, that's true. I think that shouldn't be a high-scoring game. New Orleans defense is playing very well right now. Dallas is getting their offensive line healthy for the Tampa Bay game after getting shut out last week. And New England has Buffalo, and New England loses to a failed drug situation, the top wide receiver. And so they have to go back to the drawing board, and they're playing a good Buffalo defensive team. It's a big number. But Miami has a couple of guys hurt. The Giants will play at Indianapolis. The Giants are pretty good on the road. They may give Indianapolis a game.
Yeah, I'm surprised about the New England. You brought that up, but there's not been any line movement in that game, even though, Gordon is out, and he did provide the big pass down the field for Brady, open it up. That line is sticking at 13.5. That's a big number.
It's Buffalo.
Yeah, they got a good defense. Young quarterback.
Well, nobody respects Buffalo. They're an under-the-radar team. Nobody knows how. Their defense is second in the league right now. Nobody gets it. One team that's getting healthy is the Chargers.
Yeah,
the only guy who's questionable is Allen right now, but their running backs are both getting healthy for this game this week.
Yeah, and this is a big test for. That's a Saturday game. The Baltimore. This will be a big test for them going up against a highly rated defensive club like the Chargers, they have been fortunate to be playing some lower rated defensive clubs with that running game that they're bringing in. At some point, Jackson's going to have to throw the ball effectively in order to balance out that offense.
Well, he's been balanced. He throws for as many yards as he runs. But the thing with the Chargers, a little bit of a red flag is that they've been living on the edge the last 3 games. They've had to come from behind the last 3 weeks. And even against Cincinnati, they had to come from behind. They did not go out and exactly spank Cincinnati. And the Raiders, they did not play well and had to come from off the mat to beat them. They've had 3 teams that gave them a game for more than a half, and they had to come from behind in all 3 games.
Yeah, the Chargers, they've not been a great favorite, but they probably have the best roster in the AFC, and they are getting some people healthy. Statistically, over the years, they kind of lay an egg when they're favored, but this is I'm not promoting the Chargers here at all because I think the Ravens can give them a game, but when you put them in as a favorite, they're not the best type favorite. Actually, over the years, they've been pretty damn good as an underdog. But this is a different team, and the way they came back to beat Pittsburgh and came back to beat the Chiefs on the road in both those games. That was pretty impressive. But there are times when they lay an egg, and I'm not saying they will here, but it's just a comment.
Well, I'm just pointing out that the last 3 weeks they've come from behind against, and 2 of the teams, the Chiefs, that was at Kansas City, and that's understandable. But how they played against Cincinnati was kind of a head scratcher. But their defense is healthy now, and they have a good defense.
Oh, they do. Well, ever since they got Bosa back, it's definitely such a great player.
Well, they also have a defensive back who's been playing lights out.
Yeah, they're a very good team. They probably are. I mean, right now, I'd favor them to win the AFC. When you just look at it, roster and personnel, and Rivers is having a great year. He's having an awesome year. So it's anything. Let's see. There's any other? How about this Kansas City Seattle game?
What's that?
The late game on Sunday, I find to be very interesting. Kansas City at Seattle. Kansas City, a 2.5-point favorite on the road. And actually, there's enough juice out there. There's some places that now Kansas City is 3. So it's tough for me to see any team go into Seattle being favored. That's a tough place to play, and that's a tough, well-coached team in Seattle.
Well, Wright may play for Seattle, which would help them. Otherwise, if he doesn't go, their 2 starting linebackers are out. And they will have trouble against Kansas City tight end if Wright doesn't go. And then Chicago, by the way, has something to play for. If they can win out, they have a chance to be the number 2 seed. So they will show up against San Francisco, and San Francisco's quarterback is facing a defense like the likes he's never seen before. And then there's Pittsburgh and New Orleans, two Hall of Fame headed quarterbacks playing against each other, who right now are struggling a little bit, and figures to be a defensive struggle.
Yeah, it does. As a matter of fact, I've put some money on the under. That opened a little bit higher than what the sheet says or what the board says right now, but it's sitting at 52.5, 53. The way they've been playing and how much the game means, that's going to be tough to get over that number. Although both teams have the capability of that, I don't see it happening. They've got a big jump. Just a minute ago, the Rams, who are playing at Arizona, the Rams haven't been playing all that well lately, and they just jumped from 14 to 16, which is that's a, you know, I mean, 16 is like 14 and a half. It doesn't mean much, but that's a pretty impressive move. I guess they're figuring Arizona with Rosen and stuff at quarterback. They're probably not seeing that Arizona's be able to score very much. So
they took Gurley off the injured list. That's why that number went up.
The number went up and the total went down from 47.5 to 44. It's an unusual thing, but they're probably looking pretty much at a shutout, I guess, in that spot. And Cleveland, at the same time, went from 7 up to 9 or 10 over Cincinnati. And unusual numbers we're seeing right now. But, you know, you got teams that want to play and have something to play for against teams that don't. And that's what you're starting to see in the lines right now. Minnesota jumped up to 6 from its opening at 4.5. So there's been a lot of movement in the last 24 hours. Very interesting card, Hank.
Well, Minnesota is still in the picture for the postseason. They need to win. Detroit right now is really beat up. They don't have anybody healthy. And Minnesota last week became a running team. They changed their whole culture in 1 week.
Yeah, you were the one that pointed that out before anybody else saw it, that they were going to run the ball, and they did. They ran the ball 40 times, threw the ball 21 times. They totally changed their culture when they moved off the offensive coordinator position.
Houston, Philadelphia is a game that I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Philadelphia. There are some who think that Foles is a guy who's good 1 week and not so good the next. I think he's going to be good again. And Houston goes in there. This is a spot for O'Brien where the coach is going up against the Philadelphia defense that's improved substantially last week, and that's a pick'em game.
Yeah, you know, yesterday that game went up to 2.5, Philadelphia. Now it's back down to 1 or 1.5. So there's been some Houston money. But the one thing about Houston that bothers me a lot, Hank, is about this game and going forward. Their offensive line doesn't protect their quarterback very much. I mean, this guy has gotten hit more times than anybody else in the league, and you know, he's prone to getting injured. He's had a history of that in the past, and that offensive line has got to improve quite a bit for that team to go.
Well, a lot of it is him too. He doesn't have a lot of patience in the pocket. You know, he wants to run, and they've had trouble getting him to, to be a passer first and a runner second. He's always anxious to run out of the pocket. He's a guy whose biggest plays occur when he runs the option play. So he's not your usual quarterback.
No, he is not. He is definitely not. Well, Hank, there's nothing else. I know you have to run. Your plays, my plays are at jimfeist.com. We're going to have a big weekend.
Bowl games.
Oh, bowl games. Yeah, there's a lot of bowl games. Yeah.
I'm unbeaten in bowls so far.
Really? Wow.
Yep. Check jimfeist.com or whatever we're called.
Yep. That's
and we've got 2 bowl games today. Florida International. Butch Davis is the coach there. He's done a great job with that team. They played Toledo, and BYU is playing Western Michigan. And on Saturday, I'll tell you a game where there'll be a lot of scoring. Wake Forest and Memphis.
Yeah, total on that game 73.
Yep, deserves it.
A little warning on the Toledo-Florida International game. They're expecting gusts of wind up to 60 miles an hour. The total in that game has come down from 67 down to 56 as a result of this windstorm that they're expecting there.
In the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas, yes.
Yeah, okay. That's good information.
All right, Hank, thank you very much. Everybody out there, go to jimfeist.com for Hank's Plays, and we'll talk to you again on Monday. Thanks, Hank.
Oh, okay. Attention, your congressman. That yes on whatever that bill is.
I agree. We need federal regulations. We need to have it stabilized. I agree with it. It's going to take a little while to get it straightened out, but it will happen. Thanks, Hank.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Jim.